Alright, let's take a deep dive into something that continues to elude most men throughout their lives, despite its potential to unlock extraordinary power in their relationships. It's something subtle, almost imperceptible at first, a hidden force that, once understood, can change the very nature of your connections. What I'm talking about is masculine calm. Now, don't jump ahead and assume you know what I mean. This isn't about the type of fake calm that some men try to project when they're nervous or unsure of themselves. You've seen it before. The guy who puts on an act, attempting to appear unruffled, calm, and in control, but you can see it in his eyes that everything is anything but okay. That's not the calm I'm referring to. When a man forces calmness to hide his anxiety or inner turmoil, it's like a pressure cooker about to burst. It doesn't hold up under pressure. I'm also not talking about the surface level, rehearsed confidence that some guys rely on to get by. This is the kind of confidence that's calculated, practiced in front of a mirror, and sounds great in theory. But when push comes to shove, it crumbles under the weight of real, raw emotion. It's the type of confidence that's built on superficial actions rather than deep-rooted, genuine self-assurance. And when things go off script, this type of bravado fades fast. No, the kind of calm I'm referring to is something far deeper. It's authentic. It's magnetic. It's a calm that flows from a place within you that doesn't need to be forced or displayed. It's the kind of calm that's rooted in being truly at peace with yourself, a man who is completely comfortable in his own skin, confident in who he is, and unwavering in his sense of self. This is the kind of calm that doesn't require performance or pretense. It's just there, effortlessly. When you embody this kind of masculine calm, it becomes an incredibly powerful force, one that women not only notice but feel. It's an energy that runs deep, so deep that it elicits a visceral response in those around you, especially women. It's almost like an invisible current that they can't explain, but they feel it instinctively. Something about you just draws them in, makes them pause, and makes them wonder, what is it about him? This calm is what creates an unspoken connection, one that transcends words or gestures. When you carry this calm with you, it doesn't just make you more attractive, it makes you magnetic, irresistible. Women can sense that you are the type of man who doesn't crack under pressure, who isn't easily rattled, and who is grounded no matter what emotional storm may swirl around him. And this calm, this deep-rooted inner peace becomes an anchor for others, especially for a woman who may be navigating her own emotions. It's a quiet strength that speaks louder than any loud proclamation of confidence ever could. This masculine calm is the kind of power that isn't flashy or attention-seeking. It doesn't need to make a scene. Instead, it's a calm presence that feels solid, steady, and unwavering. It's the kind of calm that stays present and grounded no matter what chaos or challenges arise. And that's what makes it so incredibly magnetic. And here's the best part. This calm doesn't require you to change who you are or put on a facade. It's already within you. It's a matter of tapping into it, embracing it, and allowing it to shine through naturally. The more you become comfortable with yourself, and the more anchored you become in your own sense of self, the more this calm will naturally radiate from you. And when you finally unlock it, you'll realize it's one of the most powerful forces you can ever wield in your relationships. It's a force that doesn't need to be forced or faked. It's just there, and it's magnetic beyond measure. Your words or your actions, but in the way you carry yourself. It's in the quiet steadiness behind your eyes, the way you move through space without urgency, and the unshakable quality of your presence. This isn't about trying to appear composed. It's about actually being composed. That internal alignment radiates outward, and it creates a gravitational pull that others, especially women, can't help but feel. This kind of calm isn't just about resisting reactivity, it's about anchoring yourself so deeply within that the external world loses its power to disrupt your center. When a woman is around a man like that, she doesn't just notice him, she feels him. It's instinctive, like sensing the difference between still water and a raging current. There's something grounding about it, something undeniably attractive. Quick break, close your eyes for a second. Picture her. The girl you've always wanted. Feel what it would be like to actually have her. Now open your eyes, because here's the truth. Right now, you're invisible to her. You're getting outcompeted by guys with more money, better looks, higher status, and stronger game. You're playing a rigged game, and you're losing, but I've spent the last 35 years mastering this, studying, testing, and finally finding the secrets to get the girls I always wanted. You want to stop getting ignored? You want her chasing you? Then you need to wake up and act. Click the link in the comments if you are truly committed and take the first step toward becoming that guy. Few spots left. Be fast or miss out your last chance to make her yours. Let's get back to it. You see, the world women live in, emotionally, energetically, is often full of fluctuation. That doesn't mean it's bad or unstable. It's simply alive, dynamic, deeply felt. For many women, life is experienced through the lens of feeling, connection, energy, not always logic or strategy. And in that terrain, emotional depth is the norm. But what makes that experience overwhelming is when they sense they're alone in it, that no one can meet them in that space without drowning. That's why true masculine calm is so rare and so impactful. It's the energy of a man who doesn't fear emotional intensity, his own or hers. He doesn't flinch when confronted with discomfort. He doesn't try to fix, escape, or invalidate what's unfolding. Instead, he brings stillness into the storm, not cold detachment, but warm, steady presence. He shows up with both feet on the ground, not because he has all the answers, but because he's no longer afraid of the questions. There's a shift that happens when a woman encounters this. Something deep inside her begins to settle. It's not that you silence her emotional waves, it's that you don't get pulled under by them. You hold your ground, and by doing so, you offer her something she rarely finds: containment without control. She doesn't feel judged, dismissed, or dominated. She feels safe, seen, accepted in her fullness. And this doesn't just affect attraction, it changes the quality of the connection. It deepens it, because once she realizes you aren't going anywhere, that you won't be shaken by her emotional fire, she starts to reveal more. Her guard lowers, her softness returns. She becomes more open, more trusting, and more connected to her own femininity, not because you demanded it, but because your groundedness made space for it. True masculine calm doesn't dominate, it doesn't chase, it doesn't shrink, it stands. And in standing, it invites others to meet it, not through force, but through the quiet certainty of presence. This is the kind of calm that can't be imitated. You can't memorize it from a script or learn it from a pickup line. You become it through depth, through honesty, through doing the inner work of facing your own discomfort so thoroughly that someone else's no longer intimidates you. That's where the calm comes from. Not performance, but embodiment. And that embodiment makes you unforgettable. Not because you impressed her, but because you made her feel something she didn't even know she was craving. A man who won't move, won't flinch, won't bend when the storm rolls in. A man who stays. The most striking thing about masculine calm is that it isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention, and it never needs to prove itself. That's its power. It's not built on effort, it's built on essence, and the essence of true masculine calm is presence without pretense. It's being so anchored in your identity, so familiar with your inner world that external chaos no longer has the ability to pull you off center. This doesn't mean you're emotionless or indifferent. In fact, it's the opposite. You feel everything, but you're not ruled by those feelings. You've made peace with your own shadows, your past, your doubts. You've sat in silence long enough to recognize the difference between reaction and response, and that internal self-trust, that's what radiates outward. That's what women sense, even if they can't explain it. When a man walks into a room carrying this calm, everything subtly shifts. There's a gravity to him, a kind of quiet magnetism. He doesn't seek validation because he's already given it to himself. He doesn't posture or perform because he has nothing to compensate for. He listens more than he speaks, not because he's unsure, but because he doesn't need to dominate the space. His presence speaks, and it speaks volumes. This kind of man doesn't flinch in the face of feminine energy. He doesn't feel threatened by its intensity or confused by its movement. He recognizes that emotion is not a problem to be solved. It's a rhythm to be understood. And because he's at peace with his own inner world, he becomes a kind of sanctuary for hers. Not by absorbing it, not by controlling it, but by holding space for it. Calmly, steadily, unapologetically. And here's what's wild. When you embody this essence, you stop trying. You stop chasing outcomes. Stop strategizing every word or move. You realize that your presence, your actual grounded being, is enough. There's nothing to prove and nothing to force. And that effortless confidence, that absence of neediness, that's what draws her in. Women don't remember the guy who tried too hard. They remember the one who felt different, the one whose energy didn't spike with insecurity, whose silence was comfortable instead of awkward, whose gaze didn't seek approval but offered understanding. That man stands out, not because he made a scene, but because he made her feel something she couldn't quite name, safe, seen, and stirred all at once. True masculine calm is born from a man who has journeyed inward, a man who no longer fights invisible battles with himself or tries to outrun the parts of him he hasn't yet accepted. Emotional stability isn't something he pretends to have. It's the natural outcome of deep self-awareness, cultivated over time through reflection, experience, and internal reckoning. He's faced his own chaos, sat in discomfort without flinching, and emerged with a quiet strength that doesn't need to be announced. This kind of man doesn't measure his identity by the reactions he gets from others. He's not thrown off course by disapproval, nor inflated by praise. He's not addicted to being right, admired, or admired for being right. His sense of self isn't built on compliments, performance, or comparison. It's built on clarity. And from that clarity comes a powerful kind of peace. In relationships, this emotional steadiness is transformative. Because here's the truth. Women often feel most emotionally safe with a man who is grounded, not because he suppresses his emotions, but because he's mastered them. He doesn't deny what he feels, he simply doesn't allow emotions to hijack his presence or distort his integrity. When tension rises or storms brew, he remains composed not out of detachment, but from a deep internal knowing that he doesn't need to control everything to feel secure. That's the paradox. Masculine calm doesn't come from control, it comes from surrendering the need for it. He no longer reacts from fear or insecurity. He doesn't lash out to defend a fragile ego or collapse under pressure. Instead, he breathes, listens, and stays rooted. He understands that the ability to remain centered amidst chaos isn't just attractive, it's rare, and rare is magnetic. In his presence, she can relax. She doesn't have to worry about managing his moods or treading lightly around his sensitivities. She can feel the full range of her own emotions, knowing they won't destabilize him. He becomes the calm in her storm, not because he resists her energy, but because he can absorb it without losing himself. Masculine emotional stability isn't passive, it's powerful. It creates space, it invites depth, it commands respect without ever asking for it. And most importantly, it sets the tone for a relationship that doesn't rise and fall on emotional drama, but thrives on mutual grounding, real connection, and unshakable presence. This is what makes masculine calm so much more than a trait. It's a practice, a presence, and a way of being that transforms how a man moves through life and how others respond to him. When a woman encounters a man who has cultivated a true inner calm, she senses it almost immediately, not through words, but through energy. His presence speaks volumes before he even opens his mouth. It's in the way he carries himself, unhurried, grounded, fully at ease. He doesn't need to take up space to prove his value. He is the space, a presence so steady and self-assured that others instinctively orient around it. She might test him, not maliciously, but naturally, as part of her intuitive search for something real, something unwavering. She wants to feel if what he projects is genuine or just another mask. Will he crack under pressure? Will he waver when challenged? Will he crumble in the face of her emotional intensity, or worse, become reactive, insecure, or defensive? These tests aren't games. They're deeply instinctive ways of feeling out a man's center, and when she finds that his calm isn't a performance but a way of being, something profound happens. She realizes he cannot be shaken, not by a sharp tone, not by an uncomfortable silence, not by her pulling away, nor by her leaning in. He remains rooted, not out of cold detachment, but out of deep self-possession. He's not trying to win her approval, nor is he afraid of losing it. He's simply there, whole within himself, and that's what stirs something primal in her. Not just attraction, but trust, reverence, even awe. Confidence at this level isn't loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. It shows up in subtle ways, the ease in his breath, the way he listens without rushing to respond, the steadiness in his eyes when things get tense. He doesn't need to dominate the conversation or prove that he's alpha. His power isn't in his volume, it's in his silence, in his restraint, in his absolute comfort with himself. When a man embodies this kind of presence, he stops trying to convince anyone of his worth, especially women. Ironically, that's when he becomes most magnetic. His confidence no longer comes from what he does, but from who he is. That's why it can't be shaken, even when others try. He's not on a mission to impress. He's grounded in a deeper mission, to remain true to himself, no matter what. And here's the beauty of it. This unshakable presence doesn't repel emotion. It welcomes it. It doesn't dodge discomfort. It can sit in it. It doesn't fear intimacy. It holds space for it. That's what makes it so powerful. When a woman feels this kind of energy, she doesn't just feel attracted, she feels safe. Safe to let go, safe to feel, safe to trust. Ultimately, creating unshakable presence and confidence isn't about building walls or becoming indifferent. It's about dissolving the need to be anything other than fully, authentically you, and standing so deeply in that truth that no one else's chaos can pull you away from it. It's easy to mistake masculine calm for emotional detachment. Some men, in an attempt to appear strong, end up becoming cold, distant, or shut off, thinking that's what strength looks like. But that's not true calm. That's self-protection. That's a wall, not a foundation. Real grounded masculinity is something entirely different. It's not about suppressing or avoiding emotion. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about having the capacity to feel everything without being ruled by any of it. It's about being so centered in yourself that you can allow emotions to move through you without letting them hijack your behavior, your words, or your energy. This is where many men get it wrong. They think calm means becoming numb, so they shut down, thinking that silence equals strength, but what they actually radiate is disconnection, and women can feel that immediately. She may not be able to articulate it, but she'll sense that something's off, that the man in front of her isn't really with her, even if he's physically present. She won't feel safe, not because he's volatile, but because he's emotionally absent. Grounded masculinity, on the other hand, is alive. It's responsive, not reactive. When she's upset, you don't flinch. You don't get pulled into the whirlwind, and you don't check out either. You hold space. That means you stay fully present, calm, open, and aware, even when her emotions rise. You don't see her emotional expression as a threat. You see it as an invitation to stay steady, to stay listening, to stay real. And when she pulls away, when she tests your limits, or when she wants to know if you're truly anchored, you don't chase. You don't panic. You don't try to fix or control. You trust yourself enough to stay rooted in your truth, because your worth doesn't rise and fall with her moods. You don't abandon your center just because someone else is off theirs. This kind of presence takes work. It means facing your own emotional patterns, your triggers, your insecurities, and learning how to hold them without spilling them onto others. It means doing the inner work to become a man who feels everything, but chooses what to embody. A man who can walk through the storm, hers or his own, and remain grounded, open-hearted, and steady. That is not weakness. That is not detachment. That is mastery. In today's world, where performance often takes the place of truth, it's easy to believe that strength lies in doing, in action, control, or conquest. But the deeper truth, the one that quietly separates men who are merely impressive from those who are unforgettable, is this: true power lies in presence. And presence doesn't mean dominating the room or always knowing what to say. It means being deeply rooted in who you are, so grounded, so authentically centered that you don't need to reach, grasp, or perform. You simply are. That's where we begin. When a woman challenges you, and she will, not out of malice, but to feel the edges of your strength, you don't need to react. You don't need to resist, argue, or scramble to defend yourself. You simply hold your ground with quiet certainty, because you're not standing on shaky internal ground that needs validation. You're standing on something far more solid, self-knowledge. She feels that. She senses that your calm isn't a tactic, it's a reflection of something far deeper, an unshakable truth about who you are. And because you are unshaken, she can relax into herself around you. There's no need for games or posturing. Your authenticity gives her permission to let go of the mask too. In a world of men trying to impress her, you become the one who doesn't need to try. And ironically, that's exactly what pulls her in. That calm, that deep embodied steadiness creates more than comfort. It creates gravity, emotional gravity. She doesn't always know why she wants to be around you. She just knows she does. There's something different in the way you exist. Not in what you do, but in what you don't do. You don't flinch, you don't force, you don't lose yourself. Instead, you become her emotional anchor, the one constant in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming. You are not swayed by her mood, nor are you afraid of her emotional depth. You meet her intensity not with avoidance or control, but with grounded presence. That presence is both rare and irreplaceable. When a man can make a woman feel seen, safe, and challenged, all at the same time, he becomes unforgettable. Here's where most men get it wrong. They think love means fixing. When she's emotional, they scramble for answers. They try to soothe, solve, explain, or even apologize for things they didn't do. Not out of malice, but out of discomfort. Their intention is pure, but their energy says, I can't handle this. And that, unintentionally, breaks trust. Because when you rush to fix her, you're not just trying to calm the moment, you're sending the message that her emotions are a problem, that they're too much, and that tells her she needs to shrink to be loved. But the man who truly understands masculine calm, he doesn't try to fix, he doesn't shrink away from emotion. He listens deeply, attentively, not to respond, but to witness. He understands that her emotional waves are not threats, but invitations. She doesn't need solutions. She needs space. A man who can stay steady enough to let her feel it all without panic or pressure. And when you do that, when you hold space instead of control, she opens. The truth is, your presence is the test. Not in a game-playing way, but in a fundamental, primal one. She is constantly asking, often unconsciously, can you handle me? All of me? Not just when I'm soft, sensual, and open, but also when I'm messy, loud, chaotic, and afraid. When she cries, yells, pulls away, or doubts herself. What do? Do you try to fix it? Do you shut down? Do you abandon yourself in order to please her? Or do you remain fully there, fully you, fully grounded? That's the real test of masculine calm. And when you pass it, not through effort, but through embodiment, something powerful happens. Trust is built. Not surface level trust, but soul deep trust. The kind that doesn't need constant reassurance, the kind that creates lasting connection. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. If this message spoke to you or gave you something to think about, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new drop. I've got more real talk, more growth, and more power coming your way. So stay locked in. And if you're going through something right now, just remember, your silence can say more than 1,000 words ever could. Take care of yourself, keep rising, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.